Okay. Well, welcome to the second in a series of webinars about the Milwaukee County Land Information Office's interactive mapping website. My name is Brad Bloomer. I'm a GIS analyst with the Land Information Office. If you have any questions at any time, please either type them into the chat window or raise your hand, and I'll try to keep an eye on that window. Also, these webinars are designed to be short and informal. They're only a half hour since I know everybody's time is valuable. As covered in the last webinar, the Land Information Office is charged with developing and maintaining GIS applications within Milwaukee County. And one of the major uses of the website that we found is to access survey documents. So with that in mind, we've chosen it as our first in-depth topic. These webinars are meant as a two-way street. We want to know how you use the site, and in turn will help demonstrate the best ways to leverage the site for your workflows. So from that point of view, just like last time, I'd like to poll the attendees to get a clearer picture of your industry and how you might use the site. So there should be a poll open on your screen asking your industry. Again, it's a limitation of the poll setup that I couldn't include more categories, so I guess pick whatever is closest for you. Okay, looks like everybody's voted, so that's good. Let me share the results. Not surprisingly, the majority are in real estate or otherwise engineering, and that's not too surprising. Your real estate people need to know how land is surveyed. So that's what we're going to go through today. But before we go into searching for survey documents, I want to talk a little bit more about them. What are survey documents? This is going to be repetitive or actually maybe not even entirely correct for professionals in real estate, but I'll do the best I can. This is also for in case there's any homeowners or people unfamiliar with surveys who are either going to view the recording or who are in here today. So there's a couple of different types of survey documents. The most basic survey document is the plat of survey, and I'm on our website right now, the Land Information Office website. I'm going to go to Maps and Survey Maps. We have a little bit of information about surveys, so I'm just going to go through it from our site. So what is a plat of survey? A plat of survey is a map that may include some or all of the following on an individual's property legal description, which is location, boundaries, dimensions of boundary segments, easements, setbacks, and existing structures. It's a document created, prepared and certified by a licensed certified surveyor from survey measurements collected on-site at the property. Historically, a plat of survey may not conform to the more rigorous surveys produced today. More rigorous surveys are of the ALTA CSM land surveyed variety, which are certified to conform to a strict set of standards and considered the gold standard when it comes to modern day survey work. But when it comes to who needs a plat of survey, they may be required when you obtain a building permit or to buy, sell, or refinance property or to subdivide a parcel. It can also be useful in settling property line and encroachment disputes between business owners between owners of neighboring properties. Title insurance firms use them to verify property boundaries and to identify encroachments, easements, and other issues that may prevent clear title transfer in real estate transactions. And how are they collected? A plat of survey is collected by a registered land surveyor at the request of a property owner. The MCLIO website provides access to plats of survey, but only if a document exists for that property. So in order to have a property surveyed, residents would need to contact a registered land surveyor. And the Wisconsin Society of Land Surveyors has that information on their website in a searchable database. Now, I spent so much time on that because we frequently get asked why there isn't a survey for a piece of property. And the fact of the matter is we do not generate surveys ourselves. Plats of surveys are generated by property owners who hire a surveyor. So we wouldn't have a plat of survey for a property unless somebody has paid to have one done. So that's a plat of survey. It's the most basic type. It serves most of the needs of homeowners when it comes to surveying their property. Next is the CSM, or Certified Survey Map, which is another type of survey but conforms, as I said, to more rigorous standards than a plat of survey. We also provide access to subdivision plats, which generally encompass all lots in a larger subdivision, but they probably wouldn't include structure data since they're generally recorded before construction begins on a subdivision. There may be planned structures. Finally, there are condominium plats, which describe and divide condominium properties, similar to a subdivision plat. Just as a point of reference, all CSMs and plats in the Milwaukee County suburbs are scanned back to 1970 and are continually going back and scanning them farther. However, within the city of Milwaukee, it may be more sporadic. So occasionally you will get an error essentially saying that a document can't be found. Well, actually what's probably the case is that it just hasn't been scanned yet. So if a document is unavailable online, it can be retrieved by the Register of Deeds office, which can be contacted at 414-278-4001. And there may be fees that are applicable to retrieving that document. So after hearing those descriptions of surveys, I want to ask the question of what type of survey is the most useful or used the most in your job. So let me launch this survey. And I'll give this survey just a few more seconds here. Okay, I'm going to close this poll and put up the results. Okay, so most of you responded that you'd take whatever survey you can get, and that's an honest answer, and probably in most cases that makes sense. You're really just interested in having some sort of recorded survey information. As you go back in time, plats of survey may be less and less rigorous. CSMs would be better. So, you know, if you take whatever you can get, you might be able to get a very old recorded document and also a very new one. So it's best to always look at all of them that are available if you're trying to do some sort of site plan. Okay, so with that, let's go over to the website. So from the Land Information Office website, from the home at county.milwaukee.gov/MCLIO, you can click on Launch the Viewer, and that will open up the McCandless Viewer. Now, I went over the general layout of the site last time, so let me just have you recall that to get to the layer list, you click on the small arrow on the left-hand side. That'll bring out the table of contents or information pane over here. And by default, a number of things are checked on. By default, tax parcels are on and some operational layers. Now let me zoom in on the map. Now you'll see that tax parcels are on, but you don't see lines. That's by design. If you turn it off, you see that the addresses disappear, but the tax parcels are there. Also in operational, you don't see some of these things. County boundary you'd see, but plat of survey, subdivision documents, condo documents, CSM documents, they're not exactly visible on the map, but they are there. And so how would you know that it's there? Well, there's a couple of ways to get to that information. First and foremost is the Identify button. The Identify button will drill down to anything on the map and give you information about what's there. So let's say this is your property right here. So you click Identify, and anything that's turned on in the layer list will come up in the results. So you see something called Dover Hill Addition Number 1. That's a subdivision plat. Then there's a plat of survey, actually several plats of survey, given its recorded date here, and then the actual tax parcel. So if you want to open any of these, all you have to do is click on the document. So let's say we want the document for the Dover Hill Addition here. We'll click for document. Unfortunately, the document was found, and it's just going to take a minute for it to load. I apologize for having to wait for it. Unfortunately, I can't skip ahead to the download part. Okay, so you've chosen to open the document. I'm just going to say open, and it'll pop up here. Here's the subdivision plat. You may need to rotate it. Depending on how you or what browser you're using, it may automatically download and open in Adobe Acrobat or some sort of PDF viewer, or it may open within the browser window. So don't be surprised if it looks a little different than this. And it may or may not auto-rotate it. I'm just going to, whoops, that's the wrong way to rotate. And here you see the subdivision plat. And you'll notice that the shape of it matches the shape of the subdivision plat on the website. If you hover over it, you can see that shape right here. Oops. There we go. So that's the shape of the subdivision. There's also plats of survey. I'll get the most recent one here. It's down at the bottom. And in here is just the link to the plat of survey. Here's one plat of survey. As you can see, it includes the structure, and it includes the streets and the silt screens. That must have been during construction of this property. Proposed driveway. Okay, that's proposed dwelling. So any of these, there's apparently several plats of survey from around the time of construction. Let's open another one. Here's perhaps cleaner plat of survey. So that's plats of survey, but you don't necessarily know where they are on here. You know, you could click haphazardly to try to find where surveys are, but it's a little unclear to do that. So there's a couple of ways that you can accomplish actually locating different types of surveys. First, I'm going to clear out all the results. Close out of that. Go back to the layer list, and there's a layer called cadastral. If you turn that on, that will turn on all the cadastral information. It'll take just a second to load. It should load, or I might have to zoom in a little closer. Okay, there we go. So now a bunch of information pops up about the property, including property lines, measurements, distances, parcel numbers. But what we're interested in this case is, well, for this area, the purple information. So you'll see here is Dover Hill Addition Number 1, and then there's the lot numbers. So you know that anything in here is part of Dover Hill Addition Number 1. And similarly, there'll be other document names elsewhere. Here is Southview East, and each lot number within the subdivision. Also within here, you'll see condominium information. Once this loads up, sometimes it gets a little twitchy. Turn that off. Alright, that isn't really playing nicely right now. Here you see another subdivision. I really want to show condos though, or CSMs. Alright, well, this area doesn't seem to be responding, but I'll get back to that in a second. So that's just one way to be able to see subdivision or CSM or plat of survey information. Or, excuse me, not plat of survey, but CSM or condo information. You'll note what's missing in the cadastral layer if you open it up is plats of survey. Plats of survey are not included as part of the cadaster. And I should also make a point of mentioning that plats of survey are not recorded documents that are filed with the county. They're actually just sent to the surveyor. So in our case, that's SewerPAC. SewerPAC sends us plats of survey, we scan them, and we add them to our website. But since they're not recorded, there are cases where plats of survey, aren't always consistently sent to the county. That's better now. But in the past, there were plats of survey. Occasionally, we still come upon some that were never sent to the county. Okay, so let me get back to this here. Here you'll see that you have all of the, here's a condominium. And condominiums, being weirdly named as they are, will sometimes have very long names, like Fourth Addendum to Plat of Westminster Condominiums, Phase 5. And that's all included in this list. You can turn them off. Here, let me turn off Condo Anno because I don't want to see that. That'll turn off the very long name. You can turn off condominiums altogether, and you wouldn't be able to see the symbology. If you turn off parcel lines, tax parcel boundary, turn off Cardo line, turn off right-of-way, all you'll be able to see then is outlines of surveys. So let me turn off the condo survey outline, and all these disappear. All that's left is apparently the original subdivision that it was in. We turn off CSM, turn off water, leave on subdivision, and then leave on subdivision anno, and you'll see that this original subdivision is here. Oh, I'm sorry, this line goes to Dover Hill Edition number 1. So that's one way to look at survey documents. The other way is to look in the cadastral layer. I'm sorry, not cadastral, operational. We just went through the cadastral layer. I'm going to turn that off entirely, turn on operational. So let's say you want to see plats of survey only. Well, like I said earlier, they're there, but they're kind of invisible. But if you right-click on plat of survey and say symbolization, you can give it a color. So I'm not going to give it a fill color, I'm just going to give it a border color. You can see a preview there. It'll be a red outline. I'll hit apply, and you see that, oh, okay, there's a lot of plats of survey around. So again, all you need to do is go to your identify and click. Oh, I clicked on that one once already. Let's do this one. And you see, of course, there's still the subdivision, but then there's a plat of survey for this particular property. And you can do the same thing with any of these other layers. Now, I've been showing you the identify button, but I also want to show you a little tip or trick that you can use. Rather than using identify, you can always just right-click on the map and say, what's here? What's here is the same as hitting identify, but it's always available to you. So if you're panning around the map and, whoops, I need the pan function. You're panning around the map and you want to know what's here, rather than going to identify, you can just right-click and say, what's here? In this case, there is no survey, so all we see is owner information. Let's see if we can find a survey here. Here we go. Here's a subdivision, plat of survey, multiple plats of survey, one from 1991, one from 1992. Again, this will download, as will the plats of survey. Now, I've shown you how to pan around on the map, but the other thing you might need to do is search for a property, or search for a survey. Why would you need to do that? Well, let's say you have a survey document or a condo. Let's say you have a condo document, but you don't know where that condo is. Luckily, you can search for it on our website by name. So in the searches box, first let me clear out these results, clear out the map. Okay, so in the searches, you can search for subdivision, CSM, or condo. So let's say, for example, you want to search for condo. Maybe you have a paper copy and you don't know where it's located. I mean, there'd probably be an address, but you could also just search for the condo name, like Lyndale 4 condominium. Click search, and that's not what you want to see. It's a workflow error. I will just reload the website and see if that fixes the problem. Live demonstrations. I don't know what to say. Okay, let's try that search again. Condo search. Search for Lyndale 4 condominiums. Okay, here we go. Now it doesn't zoom there automatically, but you can see it down, Creek. Let's if you click on it, it'll zoom there, and you can immediately get the document. And let's say you also want to know if there's a CSM here. Well, you just do what we've learned already, which is, well, here, let me open this up first. And here's the condominium information. Say you want to know what else is here. Just click what's here. Now you'll see that a lot of owners will come up, or a lot of tax parcel information will come up because this is a condominium. Maybe you don't want to see all that. So what you can do is refine the results, and that's over in the left side. Click on refine results, and you can take off tax parcels. So now you're left with the original subdivision, and there's also the condominium and a Plattus survey. So, and this works the same for any of these other searches. You can search for a CSM by number, subdivision by name. It all works the same. So, we've gone through searching, we've gone through the layer list, how to pan around, how to identify, and how to symbolize. Now, you may be interested in keeping this information for later. Let's say you're doing a project in this big CSM and condo area. You can save a project by, in the upper left-hand side, clicking on Save Project. And you just give it a name, and you can always come back to this area later. But you also may need to print one of these things. So if you print off, you'd print it as you'd print any other PDF essentially. So you'll notice this opened in my browser. This particular one didn't download. But depending on the type of browser, somewhere there's going to be a print or a save button. So in my case, in Firefox, it's in the upper right. And here you'd click on print, or you can save it. If it is a subdivision, it will download and open in a PDF reader, and then in the PDF reader you can either save it or print it. So here, let me open it with Adobe Acrobat, and I want to save as or print. So essentially you could get all these documents immediately, print them, save them, whatever you need to do. And you can also, as we covered before, do printing from here, print off a map. You can highlight the property, highlight the extent of the subdivision, the condominium, and print from there, or export a map. And that's something we covered before, so I won't really get into it too much again. So we have a few more minutes left before we have to wrap up. I know, again, went through that really fast, but is there any information, any questions that anybody has? Just go ahead and either raise your hand or type in the question box, or I'm not sure if anybody called in, but you can go ahead and ask a question too. Just give that a few minutes. While I wait for questions, I'll take this opportunity to point out a couple of things. First, we have a few more webinars coming up. The next one is, I'll have to check. The next one, a month from now, will be viewing aerial photos and using pictometry. 2 months from now, we'll be using buffers, measuring, and markup tools. And then after that, we're going to revisit exactly what we want to cover, because something is happening around here that you may have noticed if you use Chrome. Let me go back to our home page. Chrome, or Google, has ended support for Silverlight in their Chrome browser, and that's a trend that's going to continue through all browsers in the future. So eventually Silverlight won't be supported, which means our website will no longer be supported. And that means that we're developing a new website based on HTML5 technology. So in a couple of months, once we run out of topics, it may actually be time to start talking about a new website, which, it's kind of unfortunate because we're just kind of starting to get into the meaty part of this new website being functional, but unfortunately, we're going to have to move on to new technology. So if you've been having an issue with Chrome, follow the link that we have posted in our announcements, and there is a workaround until September that you can still use Chrome to run Silverlight, but you need to do this little workaround. Then after that, it won't be supported at all. So that's something to keep in mind. So with that, I don't see any questions. Thank you all for attending. This webinar will be available for download on the website. Please fill out the survey following the webinar, and because it helps to determine the topics we'll cover in future webinars. With that, thank you for your attendance.